You're watching the legal breakdown. So, Glenn, Donald Trump's financial problems just took a major turn. The clock is now started on payment for the 355 million plus 100 million in interest for the fraud verdict. So, what happens now?
Brian, by every indication, it looks like Donald Trump's financial empire, such as it is about to crash and burn. It doesn't look like he has the money, the cash, the assets on hand to begin to even appeal these cases, never mind satisfy these massive money judgments. So the latest one that the clock has started ticking on, as you've just indicated, is the essentially $450 million judgment that was awarded in Letitia James' civil fraud case for Donald Trump's massive systemic business fraud. So now Donald Trump has about 30 days to either pay the full amount that has been awarded, to the state of New York, money he has to disgorge because they're all ill-gotten gains, or he has to put up a whole bunch of that money to try to appeal that case. But Brian, this comes on top of a $5 million judgment in the first E. Jean Carroll case, an $83 million judgment in the second E. Jean Carroll case. And it looks like Donald Trump is struggling sort of across the spectrum in all of these cases. It really does feel like Donald Trump's empire is about to implode.
Well, now he's got 30 days to appeal the decision, but if he appeals, does he still have to put up the money?
He does. He has to put up virtually all of it, and frankly, then some, because there's kind of a premium. Why? Because interest will be accruing as he appeals the case. So he literally will have to put up about $500 million if he wants to appeal the judgment that was just entered and became final against him in the New York civil fraud case.
Well, he'll have to also put up the money even if he doesn't appeal. So either way, whether he appeals, he's going to have to put up the money, or whether he doesn't appeal, then he's just going to have to pay the money.
Exactly. And he does not have the assets on hand. And there's a reason I say that with such confidence. Not long ago, in a deposition, Donald Trump claimed that he had $400 million in cash, liquid assets. So I'm confident of one thing, maybe one thing only. Donald Trump doesn't have $400 million in cash because he told us he did. But here's the thing, other important data points. The first E. Jean Carroll case where the jury awarded Ms. Carroll $5 million, Donald Trump took $5 million, presumably of his own money. I say presumably because it could be Russian money, it could be Saudi money. We don't know where that $5 million came from. But Donald Trump took $5 million, and it was actually $5.5 million because he had to put some interest in there, and he gave it to the court. He deposited it in the court's escrow account, and he didn't have a bond. He wasn't able to secure a bond in that case, is the inference we can draw. Because look, if you can secure a bond, if somebody else will guarantee that $5 million, then you don't want to take your own $5 million and put it in an escrow account because you can't invest it, you can't use it, you can't earn interest off of it. And what we also know is that in the $83 million judgment, E. Jean Carroll 2, Donald Trump is already begging for more time to try to scrape the funds together to be able to appeal E. Jean Carroll 2. And that clock is just about running out.
Now, in the event that Donald Trump does appeal, is there any plausible defense that he might have to actually win and have this decision overturned?
So what I would say in the New York civil fraud trial, that case was kind of an outlier, right? Now, by all accounts, Judge Engoron gave Donald Trump wide berth. Go ahead and present any evidence you want. In fact, he actually let Donald Trump make part of his own closing argument, which the judge didn't have to do. So in many ways, the judge bent over backwards to try to, this is called protecting the record. You want to give the defendant everything he asks for and then some. So when he loses, it looks better on appeal. It doesn't look like the judge was sort of cutting his legs out from under him.
Right.
However, it was a pretty novel civil case that was brought. And there's certainly going to be an argument that maybe the banks didn't suffer as much damage as the $350 million, $450 million judgment together with interest really represents. kind of following the course of that trial, I don't think there's going to be a significant challenge on appeal, but it wouldn't shock me, Brian, if the appellate court ended up cutting the judgment back a little bit, maybe from $350 million to $300 million. But I think it's a pretty solid case that was well tried, certainly by Tish James lawyers. And I don't think Donald Trump is looking at much relief on appeal.
Now, Trump will owe 9% interest on the full judgment. That's about $3 million per month until he actually places the full amount in an escrow account. Is that included in the $100 million, or is that on top of the $100 million in interest?
I think it's on top of the $100 million in interest, and I think it compounds daily. I may be using the wrong term. I am not a financial expert, but I do think the interest will continue to compound. And, every day Donald Trump declines to satisfy the judgment or declines to deposit enough money with the court so he can appeal the judgment is another day that he is just racking up more and more and more debt that he owes on this money judgment.
Now, you alluded to this before, but Donald Trump's lawyers also asked Judge Kaplan to suspend the $83 million defamation judgment, and his lawyer said that there was a quote strong probability that it would be reduced on appeal, if not eliminated outright. What do you make of that, Glenn? Is this wish casting, or is there some truth there?
You know what? Donald Trump is always claiming that he's about to win big, and Donald Trump does nothing but lose. This is projection. This is, wish casting by Donald Trump. I don't think there is an appellate court in the land who would look at what Donald Trump did to E. Jean Carroll, particularly continuing to defame her very publicly after a prior jury had unanimously found that he defamed her.
Within 24 hours, mind you.
I think the appellate court judges are going to look at it and say, boy, did Donald Trump have that $83 million damage award coming to him.
All right. Well, obviously, a lot to stay on top of here as we continue to watch this whole process play out and to see whether at the end of the day he's going to be able to come up with the money. But as you'd mentioned before, there's a 30-day clock here. So we're going to know soon in terms of what happens with that fraud judgment, but very soon, within the next couple of days, what happens with the $83 million, the request to delay that $83 million case, because that judgment is due like now, basically. That clock started about 30 days ago. So again, a lot of news to follow on top of here. So for those watching, if you want to follow along, please make sure to subscribe. The links are right here on the screen. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
And I'm Glenn Kirshner.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown.